This is the vocabulary breakdown for Chapter 3, and in this chapter we learned about second declension masculine nouns, so we have quite a few nouns to learn in this chapter. Our first word is auger, agree, and I want to go ahead and pull this one out so that we can do a little bit of review. So auger, agree, masculine, is a good word to start with because there's a couple things we can learn from this. First of all, as we've talked about in class, you always with nouns start with the second word in the dictionary entry. This is the genitive singular form, and this is where you find out what the base is, and you also will find out what the declension is. So that's where you start to find that information. So in this case, we cut off the genitive ending. We see a long I, which we know is the second declension genitive ending, so now we know what declension it's in. And we know that it's in the masculine second declension. Then we also find out what the base is. The base is AGR. And it's always important to start with the genitive singular because the nominative singular isn't always going to have the accurate base. So this is one of those examples where we have the ER endings, and we don't know if the ER ending is going to contract or not contract. And in this situation, once you look at the base, we see that the E has disappeared. So we know that this is one of the nouns that end in ER that is contracting. And also remember, as we discussed in class, it's always helpful to look at the derivatives for a noun to determine whether something contracts or not. So for example, we have agrarian and agriculture and agronomy. It's not agriculture, it's agriculture. So that will help you remember which of these ER nouns contract and which ones do not. So that's our first word. It means farm or field. Let me erase all of this. The next word is agricola, agricoli, masculine. We go to our second word in the dictionary entry, so it's the agricoli, and we see from the AE genitive singular ending that this is definitely from first declension, and that it is in the masculine. So this is one of those unusual first declension masculine nouns, because remember, first declension is usually feminine, but in this case, this one is a masculine. This word, if you break it up, is auger, see the augury right there, and cola, which means essentially inhabit or cultivate. So a farmer is literally someone who is inhabiting or cultivating a field. Let's look at our next word. Amicus, amici, masculine. And then there is an alternate option for amica, amici, and this is an error right here. Change this in your books to feminine, okay? So amica, amici, feminine. Let's go ahead and look at what declensions these come from. So in our first option, we're going to look at the second word. We see the I, so this one is definitely in second masculine. For our second word right here, we're going to go to the second word. We've got IE ending, so this one is definitely in first feminine declension. So both of these words mean friend, but in the masculine second declension, it means a male friend. And then with first declension feminine, it means a female friend or a girlfriend. We have a lot of derivatives for amicus, and of course this is all coming from that verb amo. So if you love someone, you like someone, they are your amicus, your friend. Next word is femina, femini, feminine, it means woman. We see our genitive AE ending, so definitely from first declension feminine. And I want to talk about the derivative female just very briefly. So we have the word femina, but we also have a word in Latin, femella, which means a little woman or a girl. And as you can see, we can see some of that male, you can see that. So female is a really interesting word because it actually has nothing to do with the word male. They are completely unrelated. Female comes from this Latin word femella, whereas male, I don't know where that derivative comes from, but there is actually no association linguistically between female and male. It wasn't until about, I think, the 17th century or something like that, where people decided to call it female instead of more like female or something like that, to erroneously imitate the word male. So kind of interesting origin for the word female there. And then just as another side note, that FE base in femina and female comes from the sense of suckle. So femina literally means the one who suckles or nurses her young. Our next word is philia, filii, and it's feminine, and we see the AE ending, definitely first declension feminine. And this is important to note right here. In the dative and ablative plural, instead of being filiis, it's filiabus, okay? So just remember that. It should be pretty obvious once you see it, and once you learn third declension. You get words like filial obligation, and it means daughter. I don't know if I mentioned that yet. Our next one is filius, filii. We see our I declension ending, so definitely going to be second declension masculine. And watch out also, you must maintain that I right there. It's part of the base, so that's why we have two I's in a row. It means son. And then our last word here is numerous, numeri, masculine, and it means number. And as we see from this I genitive ending, it is also a second declension masculine noun. Populus, populi, masculine. We have that long I right there, so we know this is from second declension masculine. It means the people, or a nation. Lots of derivatives, shouldn't be too tricky for you to memorize. Our next word is puer, pueri, masculine. It means boy. And this is one of those nouns that ends in er. But as you can see from the base right here, we still have the ER, so this is one of those examples where it does not contract. We have that long I, so we know this is from second declension masculine. It means boy. In the plural, it means boys or children. And even if you had 100 girls and 1 boy, it's still going to be pueri to mean children. Our next word, I really love this word, is sapientia, sapientiae, feminine. We see that AE ending, so this is from first declension feminine. And it means wisdom, so we get words like sapient and sage. But its root word is to taste. So someone who has tasted of life and culture and literature and music and all sorts of things in life is someone who has acquired wisdom. So really interesting etymology there. Our next word is weary. And don't let this nominative singular form confuse you. We talked about in class how the normal nominative singular ending is us or er. This is an exception, but we can see it's still in second declension because it has that long I. So second declension masculine for weary. Very common word. It means man or hero, more often man, but sometimes hero. You get words like virile or triumvirate. Trium is 3, so triumvirate is 3 men. Then we have our adjectives. Our first one is avarus, awara, avarum. It means greedy or avaricious, like avarice or avariciousness or avid. Pretty easy word to remember. Then we have pauci, pauci, pauca. It's usually in the plural. It's almost always in the plural. You're not going to have few dog. You're going to have few dogs. We get words like paucity, which is a sparseness of something, or pauciloquent, which is someone who says few words. And then the last one, romanus, romana, romanum, which means Roman. Backing up really quickly, I forgot to mention one thing with pauci. So pauci, pauci, pauca. So normally, like in this example right here, avarus, awara, avarum, they give you the nominative singular masculine form, the nominative singular feminine form, and as you'll learn in the next chapter, the nominative singular neuter form. But in this case, because it's so often and almost always in the plural, they're giving you the nominative plural form, the long I, the nominative plural form feminine, AE, and then as you'll learn, this is the nominative plural neuter form. So they're just giving you the nominative plural forms instead of the nominative singular forms like what is typical for normal adjectives. I don't have as much to say about these last words. Here are our prepositions. De comes with the ablative. It means down from or from. Or concerning, about. So for example, I am talking about Roman literature. It often shows up as the prefix day, and then it means down, away, aside, out, or off. For example, our word decapitate, capit means head, so to decapitate someone, you are taking off their head. Then we have in, that's the preposition that comes with the ablative, that means in or on. In also works as a prefix, just remember that. And then this part's very, very, very important. I'm putting a big, big star here. In can also come with the accusative. And in that situation, it means into or onto. So when it's the ablative, it has the sense of I am on the table. When it's in the accusative, so in plus the accusative, it has the sense of movement. So I am running into the table. I am running onto the table. So make sure you memorize that. You will be held responsible for that material. We have our two adverbs for the chapter, hodie, which is today, and semper, which means always. And lastly, we have our two verbs for the chapter. Habeo, habere, habui, habitum, which means to have, hold, possess, or to consider, regard. And if we look at our second principal part here, we see the long E, so this is definitely in second conjugation. Our next verb right here, satio, satiare, satiavi, satiatum, means to satisfy or to sate. If we look at our second principal part, we see the long A, so definitely from first conjugation. All right, so just like we did with the last two chapters, the rest of this presentation is completely optional. You are not required to watch it, but if you want some extra practice with Latin and, in this case, translating English into Latin and therefore understanding cases a bit better, go ahead and keep observing. So I took these sentences from page 26 in your textbook, Wheelock, and these sentences he was using in order to show how word order doesn't matter in Latin, but it matters in English. So the sentences are a little funky, but I thought, why not try and translate them into Latin? Now, I think it'll be helpful before we get going into them, because the exact same vocab is used everywhere, that we write the vocab to the side. So boy, as you remember, is puer, pueri, masculine. And with that I right there, we can see that it's from second declension masculine. Girl is the other noun that we have here. So puella is how you say girl. And remember that girl literally means a little boy. Kind of funny. So puella, puellae, feminine. With that AE ending, we can see it's from first declension. And then the last noun that we see here is rose. So rosa, rosae, feminine. AE ending, definitely also in first declension. Then we have one adjective, pretty. So that's, you don't have actually this word yet. It comes from chapter 4, I think it is. But it's bellus, So for example, the belle of the ball is the beautiful person at the ball. And then we have one verb here. It's give, so that's do, dara. Okay, so now that we've written down these few little vocab words, that should definitely help us as we go along with this translation. So the first sentence is, the boy is giving the pretty girl a rose. So the first thing I want to do is identify what the parts of speech are, or not parts of speech, what the cases and functions of this sentence, of these words are doing. So here we have, the boy is giving the pretty girl a rose. Who is giving the pretty girl a rose? The boy. So this is going to be in our subject, which we know the case used for subject is the nominative. So the boy is going to be in the nominative. The boy. What is being said about the boy? The boy is giving. So this is definitely going to be our verb. And as we can see with the is giving, this is definitely in the present active indicative. The boy is giving what? He is giving a rose, direct object. So we know direct objects are going to use the accusative case. The boy is giving a rose to whom? The girl, indirect object. And remember, indirect object uses the case of the dative. What kind of girl? The pretty girl, adjective. And remember that adjectives are always going to agree with the noun they modify in case, number, and gender. So now that we've broken up the sentence, let's go ahead and determine what the words are. So the boy, we need it in the nominative case, so that's just going to be puer. Pretty easy right there. So the boy, let's do the verb next, is giving. So do, dara, we know that this is from first conjugation verb because we can see this A right here. So we're going to use our base, D, plus our thematic vowel, A, plus, let's determine what the personal ending is going to be. So here we have the boy, which isn't in first person because that would be I. Second person would be you, so it's not in second person. So it's in third person, the boy, he. So we need the third person, and there's only one boy, so we need the singular ending. So third person singular ending is a T, so our verb is going to be dot. And I'm going to put it at the end because that's typically where Latin verbs end up. So far we have the boy is giving, dot. Now let's go ahead and do our direct object accusative. So the boy is giving a rose. So remember, rose is rosa, rosai, feminine. Our base, if we go into our genitive ending, sorry, I should have written this all the way out, so rosai. Our base, if we cut off our genitive ending, is ROS, so we know we're going to have ROS. And then if you remember what the accusative singular ending for first declension is, it's AM. So the boy is giving a rose. Last thing we need to determine is the pretty girl. So let's go ahead and figure out the girl part first, the indirect object dative. So girl is puella, puelli, feminine. We already know it's from first declension. And let's go ahead and figure out what the base is first. So we've got puel, I should have written that out all the way for that part right there. Cut off the AE ending, we end up with puella. So let me go ahead and write that. Puel. And now we have to remember what the dative singular ending is for first declension. So we remember it's puella, puelli for the genitive, puelli for the dative. So we know that it's puelli. And lastly, let's go ahead and figure out our adjective. Now remember, adjectives have to agree in case, number, gender. So we know the case of girl is in the dative. We know the number of the girl is singular because there's only one girl. And we know that the gender of girl, puella, puelli, feminine, is feminine. So we need to get the dative, let me write this in, the dative singular feminine form of bellos a which is going to be bell, that's your base, and then also the AE ending. So in the end, we have the boy is giving a rose to the beautiful girl. All right, great. Let's go to the next one. The pretty girl is giving the boy a rose. So now just a few things have changed. Who is giving the boy a rose? The girl. Subject. So this one's going to be an R nominative. What is being said about the girl? The girl is giving. Verb. Is giving what? A rose. Direct object. So this one's going to be an R accusative. She's giving the rose to whom? The boy. Indirect object, which is going to be in the dative case. What kind of girl is this? A pretty girl. Adjective. So as you can see, the only thing we're really switching around is girl and boy. So now we need to put girl into the nominative singular form, which we know is just going to be puella, because that's the first word in your dictionary entry is your nominative singular form. So the girl, puella, and let's go ahead and do our adjective now. So once again, remember, adjectives agree in case, number, and gender. So the case of girl is the nominative, the number of girl is singular, and the gender of girl is feminine. So we need the nominative singular feminine form of pretty. Our base is belle, And of course, the nominative singular feminine end for first conjugation adjective is a. So here we have puella bella, which is the beautiful girl, and that sounds very, very pretty. We already know how to say is giving. It's from previous. So dot, I should have switched to blue font, but we'll just finish the sentence as is. So the beautiful girl is giving. And now a rose doesn't change as well. So let's go ahead and put rosame. It's still just the accusative singular feminine. And now the part that changes. The boy now needs to be in the indirect object dative singular masculine form. So here we have puer, and let me write out completely this second dictionary entry word, pueri. So we cut off the genitive ending, we find our base, which is puer. And now we need the masculine, right there, second declension ending for dative singular. So that's going to be puer. Pueri is your genitive, and your dative is next, puero. So it's O. So now we have the girl is giving, or excuse me, the beautiful girl is giving a rose to the boy. Okay, let's do the next one, and we'll do it a little faster now. The girl is giving the boy a pretty rose. So actually here, the only thing that changed is now pretty. Instead of modifying girl, it is now modifying a rose. So remember, adjectives agree in 3 things: case, number, gender. I'm seriously going to be saying that on my deathbed. Case, number, and gender. So we know from before that rose is in the accusative. It's singular because it's only one rose. It's not lots of roses. And rosa, rosai is already in the feminine, so we know the gender is feminine. We also know our base is belle because we've already worked with this adjective. And now we need the accusative singular feminine ending for first declension bellus a So that's going to be bellam. Okay, next one. The girl is giving the pretty boy a rose. So now pretty is modifying boy. So the case, number, gender of boy, if you remember, is the dative, singular because there's only one, and it's masculine, puer and pueri. So because of that, I need to use the second declension endings for here. So base, like usual, is belle, and second declension dative singular ending is also going to be bellow. All right, last sentence. The rose is giving the boy a pretty girl. So now things are going crazy, but that's okay. So who is giving the boy a pretty girl? The rose, subject. So that's going to be in the nominative case. What is being said about the rose? The rose is giving, verb. The rose is giving what? The rose is giving a pretty girl. Don't ask me. Direct object, which is going to be in your accusative. What kind of girl? A pretty girl. Adjective. And the rose is giving the pretty girl to whom? The boy. So this is going to be your indirect object, dative. All right, so the subject, nominative form of rose is rosa, not too difficult. Is giving is dot, not too difficult. He's giving a pretty girl, so we need this in the accusative form. Let's do girl first. Puel is our base, as we've already discussed. If I want to do it in the accusative case, it's going to be puellam. Pretty is going to also be bellam. And then boy, I'll put a little caret down, is going to be puer is our base. And I need the dative singular masculine form, so that's going to be puer. So the rose is giving a pretty girl to the boy. And that's it.